Oh, oh. Oh, the skid marks. You knew we'd get to them eventually, didn't you? And yeah, it feels good to say it. Because when the Browns are boo boo, it's good for this channel's business, believe me. And 2019, you're talking about going to that season for the Cleveland Browns. There was all this hype, there were all these expectations, all these promises of potential. Oh, they made the big trade for OBJ. By God, Baker Mayfield is going to be a stud in year two. You're going to have this, you're going to have that. They even cut Freddie Kitchens, so that way they cut the same system and all that stuff, and then all that never happened. All that hype. You give up a first rounder and a third rounder to go get a real difference maker and superstar at OBJ. You don't get shit out of him. Baker's going to bust out until you realize he played more like a bust than actually busting out, to the point where you realize he's Ohio's version of Trubisky, which is ironic because that's where Mitchell is from. And you know that's damn true. Only difference is one was taken number 1 overall and the other one was Mitch taken number 2 overall. And when all was said and done and it all came to pass, remember, oh, John Dorsey's going to be great and he's going to shake things up and this is going to be the change they need from the front office. All that crap didn't happen. Fired. Freddie Kitchens was the right hire. Wrong. Fired. So another offseason, another new head coach, and another general manager for the frickin' Skidmarks. Tell me why you're supposed to believe that absolutely anything is going to be different with this dumb dick organization. Tell me why. Why would you believe that anything is going to be different? You think Kevin Stefanski is going to be the straw that stirs the drink and makes the cocktail of skid marks in the right way? Maybe. But it's probably more likely he'll be fired within 2 years than the team make the playoffs under his leadership within 2 years. And when we look at the 20-plus years of the new Cleveland Browns skid mark history, you know smart money aligns with me. It's just the overarching approach and philosophy of the Cleveland Browns continue to make bad decisions in terms of who they bring into the fold as general manager and as a consequence head coach. Then as part of those bad decisions, they end up reacting way too quickly. A year or two later, there's always change. So there's no consistent vision. There's no continuity in the organization. It is organized Cleveland chaos to the nth degree. And yet they wonder every year why they're not making the damn playoffs. That's exactly why. It's the bad decisions, the wrong choices that are made that compound problems that lead to all the other issues that this organization has. I mean, why would you hope or think that this year is going to be any different? I mean, I'm just asking. Why would we think that a new GM and Kevin Stefanski as a head coach, guy who was so cowardly in the way that he deployed the passing game of the Vikings early on in the year, damn near brought the team down. Now this is the guy that you have big hopes for? You know, it's hard to know sometimes because sometimes guys can be middling coordinators and then be great head coaches because they better adjust to the philosophy. They better adjust, to kind of the, perspective. And you could have great coordinators that actually absolutely make booty cheeks head coaches. But this was an offseason where you did see some action again for the Cleveland Browns because, as always, you can't win games during the regular season, so you got to win the off season. They signed Jack Conklin, they signed Austin Hooper, brought in Carl Joseph. A couple of former first-round picks there. Obviously, the big signing was Jack Conklin because there is one thing. It's easy to bash on Baker and blast Baker. It's even easier to bash somebody like a Freddie Kitchens. But, John Dorsey deserved a tremendous amount of crap because he did nothing to help ensure that his young quarterback was going to be protected by that offensive line, especially on the perimeter in 2019. Like, you look at the options they were trotting out there at right and left tackle, and you could say, well, it's the post-Joe Thomas hangover, the post-Joe Thomas effect. Well, Joe Thomas ain't walking through that door any damn more. As a result, you know that's the case. You need to get better there, and they just didn't. Like, that was ridiculous. You can't do that. And you wonder why Baker played like a bus last year. So it wasn't surprising to me at all to see this team Go and sign somebody like a Jack Conklin, demand one side at offensive tackle, and then go into this draft and draft somebody like Jedrick Wills to potentially play the other tackle. That way you've got your bookend tackles for the next few years. You've got that infrastructure in place, and you're saying now we are going to better protect Baker Mayfield because we need to be able to see what we've truly got in this kid. And having him constantly under siege in a horribly constructed offensive scheme under Freddie Kitchens is not going to get the job done. And oh, by the way, you're not going to protect him worth cheeks. So wasn't surprised to see that. Certainly for the Browns, it's disappointing to see that their second-round pick, Grant Delpit, has had another injury, and this time it's going to be a ruptured Achilles. I believe he's already had surgery for, and he's out for the year. So you're not going to get a ton of impact out of this draft class. Now, if you're the Browns, and you're Browns fans, and you're saying, the Skidmarks are not going to be the Skidmarks this year, and here's why. You could say, when you look at Nick Chubb, he's a premier running back in the league, and I would hope there's no question about that anymore. He's just a beast. Nick Chubb is a beast. Nick Chubb is the type of guy that you can build a careful type of offense around, which I would expect Stefanski to do, and say, you know what, I'm going to mirror this a little bit to what we did in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, but the right things that we did later on as the season progressed. But it's still going to be based off of the running game, and you substitute Dalvin Cook for Nick Chubb, and you feel pretty good about that. It's still a team that has some really good offensive skill players as well. Again, you look at Minnesota, and you looked at when they had Thielen and Diggs and Kyle Rudolph. Now you replace those names, and it's OBJ and Jarvis Landry and Njoku, if they can figure out how to utilize that athletic freak properly. You've got weapons there for Baker Mayfield to work with. The bottom line is this: unless you get a rash of injuries in 2020, if Baker Mayfield plays like a bust again, it is totally and entirely on Baker Mayfield. His offensive line should be better and quite a bit better. He's still got really good receivers, really good options in the passing game, and he's got an elite running back. What's your excuse? Then you look at defensively, if he's not swinging helmets and getting good, clean shots in on Mason Rudolph, and you're talking about Myles Garrett is an elite edge rusher in the National Football League. Like, he's a force and he's a presence. You get other guys to step up and, play well around him. This is a defense that could be better than what they've certainly shown over the past few years. That said, lots of reasons for concern. You still got the offensive line. Sometimes it's not just about sheer talent on the offensive line and improving it there. It's about chemistry. It's about continuity. It's about how guys communicate with each other, the roles that they have. I certainly expect the offensive line for the Browns to be better and markedly better in 2020, but there certainly is no guarantee of that. And it has to be a concern going into the season, even though they have invested quite heavily there. I look at their run defense. Myles Garrett is great, but Myles Garrett alone is not going to make you an elite defense. And their ability to play the run was really bad last year. And I'm not sure that it's gotten a whole lot better in this offseason. Then you look at their secondary. Got some young guys back there. You talk about the Denzel Wards of the world, the Greedy Williams of the world. It's a secondary that can be had. It's a secondary that can be vulnerable. It's a secondary that you can hide a little bit with a Myles Garrett and somebody else really creating consistent pressure either up the middle or off the edge. But it is going to be a concern. But let's be clear here. The number one concern for the Browns organization, for Skidmarks fans, is Baker Mayfield. And I've given the truth talk before. Like, as a Bears fan, believe me, I know what it's like to have multiple busts at the quarterback position. It's a reality of most of my adult life. The reality of a lot of my childhood, too. Like, it happens. The one thing you're not going to tell me is that based off of 2 years that you've seen massive star potential out of Baker Mayfield. Who you crapping? Just who you crapping? Baker Mayfield right now looks more to me like the AFC's version of Mitchell Trubisky. What's the difference? Now, I think Baker Mayfield still has more upside. I still think, obviously, Baker Mayfield has more potential to be more of a credible NFL starting level quarterback. But let's be clear, he should have never been the number one overall pick. That was a dumb dick move by John Dorsey, and that organization pays the price for it. And you're talking about yet another year where he goes into yet another situation where he's playing under a new play caller, so to speak, and a new leader for the team. Like, these are not healthy situations to put a young quarterback in, even if you surround him with a bunch of talent. Like, it's just, you get going down one path with Hugh Jackson, then it's Freddie Kitchens, and then now it's Kevin Stefanski. Like, one of the key things you can provide to a young quarterback is continuity and consistency. And of course, because he's involved with the Cleveland Skidmarks, he doesn't get any of that whatsoever. But there's also a little bit of a thing, too, of after his rookie year, Baker sure was in love with the TV commercials and apparently wasn't in love with the film room or the practice field. Like that swagger crap that everybody likes to talk, that's great and all if you're winning, but if you don't, it makes him look like a pretentious, pompous ass that just wants to talk crap and has a certain lack of maturity, which is, again, something that was a bit concerning about him coming out of Oklahoma. I would expect Baker Mayfield to look a little bit better in 2020. How much better will ultimately determine just how far this team goes. If he plays more like a real credible NFL starting quarterback, this is a Browns team that can certainly win 9 or 10 games and slide into the playoffs in the AFC. And even in a division that's going to be tough with an improved Bengals team, the Steelers, and the Ravens, that certainly is possible. But it's just as likely that you're just going to see more up and down type of inconsistent play from him and the team as a result. And they're going to win some games that made him look impressive, and they're going to lose some really bad games. Like WTF is going on here. And that's kind of what I expect to see out of this Browns team in 2020. The chance and potential with Stefanski, who I think is a little better than Freddie Kitchens, to win 9 or 10 games, that potential is going to be there. But it's still the Skidmarks. I just don't trust Baker. I don't trust yet another offensive system for this guy. A snake-bitten franchise finds a way to continue to be snake-bitten as much as it possibly can be. I think the Browns are more of an 8-8 type of team. Might potentially, with the expansion of the playoffs, might be good enough to get them in. Might keep them in the ballpark. They certainly could get in. I don't think they're going to be total ass cheeks. But if Baker doesn't play better and he doesn't get better help, it's going to be another long year for the Skidmarks. And if you're asking me, is that what I really want? Is that what I really need? Yeah, damn right it is. I'm trying to speak it into existence by being fair at the same time, okay? When they're the Skidmarks, it's better for me. And deep down in your heart, it's better for you too.